he's called Gaton in this book, but and he's called Gaton in this book because, again, they have to switch the name so that way they don't get sued by Disney. And basically, she's caught between these two men, Gaston and Beast. His name is quite literally Beast in this book. If he has a real name, we don't find out what the other guy's name is. It's Gaton and Beast and Isabel. And we learn in this book that she has, she dated both of them in the past, and then she ended up, cheating on one of them with the other one. That part of their relationship is very unclear. It's kind of, dubious that at one point she was cheating on, I think it was Gaton with Beast, and then Beast with Gaton, and Gaton ended up proposing, and she was like, no, I can't marry you, because, which is a part of this book. This is another reason why I ranked this book number 3. It wasn't as bad as Desperate Measures, but there's so many. I hate this reductive idea that marriage is inherently anti-feminist. And yeah, sure, there are some situations in which marriage is used to tie down and browbeat women. Not to say that there's not, but this main character seems to believe that her being married will inherently take away all forms of freedom and sense of adventure that she will have, and that she'll never be able to leave the city, she'll never be able to see the world, she'll never be able to do all these things that she wants to do as a free-spirited person and individual. And I'm then one, why do you want to be in a long-term relationship in any way, shape, form, or retrospect? Because there is a level of stability that comes with having a person. But also, if you don't want stability, because that's her saying that she doesn't want freedom just sounds like, at least to me, that she doesn't want stability. But also, it's incredibly reductive and almost white feminist to say that to get married means that I will never be able to travel the world, I'll never be able to do this and that. And again, yes, there are men that want to use marriage as a way to tie down and browbeat and entrap women. But this is not the case. These two men would literally do anything for her. If she said that she wanted to go to Rome, they would drop everything, pack up, and go to Rome that day. So I hate this idea, especially whenever it's a strong-minded, strong-willed woman character, that she has to be inherently anti-marriage because marriage is inherently anti-feminist. And certainly there are some men that would like to use marriage as a hindrance and as a way to browbeat, and I've said this 3 times already, but that is not the case in this book. That is not the case with these male characters, and I feel like that's not the case, at least in a lot of modern sensibilities. Marriage is more of a commitment and a promise of stability than anything, at least in my opinion, but that's a different video. We're not talking about that today. So that was another reason why I rated this book so low out of the 4, because it was I hate that this idea that marriage is inherently anti-feminist and inherently is stripping you of your freedom. No. But also, the kink aspect, the main female character, Isabel, has a shame kink and a humiliation kink, and that's just not my vibe. That, just very simply, not my vibe, not my bop. Also, the 2 male characters piss me off because there are points in the book where they admit to the fact that they were also not being completely honest with Isabel when they were together and what they wanted sexually, because they had this Madonna horror complex of, oh, well, she's so sweet and innocent, so that's how I have to treat her, like this delicate little flower, so whenever we're having sex, I have to be super soft with her, which yeah, you can still be respectful, but you can still ask her what she wants. You can love a woman and then that woman also rough sex, which is why I say both male characters in this book had a Madonna horror complex. Admittedly, they don't use that exact phrasing, but that's what it is in the book. But then they'll get mad at Isabel when she couldn't choose between them, and I was well, you both agreed to be in this dynamic, so I don't want to hear it out of you. And then they'll oftentimes take her shame kink too far and actually start shaming her, the person, which I do like that in this book. Isabel will recognize that, will call them out on it and be I'm not doing this bullshit with you, and then she'll walk away. And I greatly enjoy that, because stick up for yourself, because do not let them take that far when they also played a hand in the dynamic and what your relationship was. Self-admittedly, they played a hand in that dynamic. And they say this even in their own POVs, because again, it switches POVs. So I'll be reading their POVs and I'm well, you admitted to this. You also admitted that you were not honest with her sexually. But yet, she's the only one who's a problem here? Absolutely not. So that's why this book got rated number 3. Because it's not bad, it's not awful. Again, it was a fun read, but after a while, the main male characters and their over dramatics. I'm all for men expressing their emotions and being honest. But like sometimes they were just overly dramatic with it, and it's like which is a problem in the next book. But I had such a huge issue, when it's like half the relationship conflict could just be settled with conversation. Just talk to each other, and you would solve 90% of the problems that you have. Anywho, that is The Beast. It was number 3 for me out of the 4 books I read. And the next one I gotta pull up on my laptop again because I also read it on audiobook. So the next one that I read on audiobook was Learn My Lesson by Katee Roberts. It's the second book in the Wiccan Villain series. This one is the 4th book, and I picked this up on a whim when I was at Barnes & Noble with my boyfriend. This one I got because I wanted to start reading the books in order. So the first book, the book that I rated number 3, which was Desperate Measures, is the first book in the series. So I've read 3 out of the 6 books in this series. This one is number 2 for me. I actually really enjoyed this book, despite the fact that Hades, one of the main male characters, is incredibly emotionally inept. Again, he's another one where it's like, you could just have a conversation. But this book follows Hercules, Megara, and Hades as they embark on this throuple dynamic. And we learn that Hades wants to lure in Hercules because Hercules has left Olympus, which is another city, another territory in this world. I will say in this series and in the book I'm about to show you, Katee Roberts is not the best at world building. Her world building is a little weak in the fact of it's very simple and very one note and layered, and she just kind of throws one note and not very layered, and she kind of just throws you into it. But also her novels are very character driven, so it's fine that the world building isn't the best or isn't the strongest, simply because the novels are character driven. You're supposed to be there for the characters. There's this one character who keeps showing up whose name is Tink, Tinkerbell, again, drawing from the fairy tales and whatnot. And I absolutely love Tink. She's tiny, she's feisty, she's great, she's funny, she's a great time, so on and so forth. But in Learn My Lesson, which Tink also shows up and she's Megara's assistant, we learn that Megara made a deal with Hades to save the man that she loved, and he bolted, like in the original Disney version and in the Greek fairy tale. No, I'm sorry, it doesn't happen like that in the Greek myth. But in the Disney version, Megara makes a deal with Hades to save the man that she loves, and he leaves. Which is why I say it very heavily draws from the Disney versions. But in this, the 10 years that she made that deal, her and Hades fell in love and they started running the underworld together, which is the BDSM club that Hades owns. Megara is the head manager, and then obviously Hades is the owner. And one night while they're sitting at dinner, Hades offers up a game, a fun little kinky game, and he's like, go seduce the waiter over there. The waiter over there being Hercules, and he just left the city of Olympus because he found out that his father, Zeus, is a rapist. That's a spoiler for the book because that is kind of an overarching through line. His father's a rapist. His father's also a murderer because we find out later in the book that he murdered Hades' first wife and child, which is important because that is an important through line in the book. The reason why he wants Megara to seduce Hercules is so he can send the video to Zeus of them sleeping with Hercules and them, seducing his baby boy, so that way he can draw Zeus to the underworld and kill him. That's not how it happens, because a whole bunch of emotional things happen, and they end up falling in love with Hercules, and they ended up keeping him as a part of their throuple dynamic. And I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed Megara. I loved her. She felt unlike with the character of Isabel, who was oh, she's a feminist because she believes that marriage will tie you down and be cinder blocks in the proverbial lake of life and drown you. Megara is just I want you to talk to me. You should treat me as if I was your equal, as if I was your partner, because I am your person, and now you won't talk to me. You do all these things, and I don't know about them, I don't find out about them, and then you get confused when I'm well, I don't feel like you love me the same. And Hades, in his POV, is always I love Megara, I would do anything for her. Anything except have a conversation, sir. And then you have Hercules. Hercules I loved because he was just a golden retriever. He was just the sweetest and the bestest of boys. He was sweet and he was attentive. And there's literally a point in the book, in one of the smut scenes, where he yells at Hades and goes, for God's sakes, Hades, just talk to her, in regards to talking to Megara and working out her feelings and so on and so forth, and working out their feelings and working out their relationship and working out this new dynamic with the three of them. And I literally got up and did a victory lap around my room because I was like, thank you. Because Hercules was truly and utterly speaking for the audience, and I appreciate that more than anything. So yes, that is where I ranked that book. And now we have the number one book, which is The Dragon's Bride by Katee Roberts. This is obviously a monster romance novel. This is a humanoid dragon, and this is our main female character, Briar Rose. The humanoid dragon was the best love interest that this woman has written that I have read so far, hands down. He was sweet, he was attentive, he was understanding. So we open the book with Briar making a deal with the demon Azazel that she will give 7 years of service and let a person of Azazel's choosing try and seduce her, with the caveat that that person can never harm her, because she needs Azazel to kill her abusive husband who almost killed her by beating her to death. Which, the husband's death happens off page, and I was very upset about that because I was like, no, I want to see this man die brutally and violently. But anywho, so she gets auctioned off to Saul in this demon human auction thing, and the book goes from there. And their romance was so cute and just sweet, and he's so understanding of her even, and patient with her, especially within their sexual dynamics. He's always asking and checking in with her and asking if she's okay, and then healing her afterward and being attentive to her afterward. And it was just, and also there's a scene where he chases her through the woods, but consensually, and it was chef's kiss writing right there. One thing Miss Katee Roberts can do, because one thing that can kill a book, especially a book that has smut in it, is if the smut is poorly written. This, however, was not. One thing Miss Katee Roberts can do, she can write a smut scene well that looks like, actual human interaction, it wasn't written by a 13-year-old on Wattpad. So I greatly enjoyed this book. This book was my favorite. Saul was just such an amazing love interest. Again, kind, attentive, golden retriever of golden retrievers, even though he was a humanoid dragon. Which begs the question, why is the humanoid dragon the best love interest? That was my thoughts on the 4 Katee Roberts books I read. I'm going to wrap this video up. My name is Skyla, and this is my first YouTube video on this here channel, and I plan on doing bookish and lifestyle and fashion content on this here channel. Goodbye.